All we've seen lately are articles being written about how toxic fandoms are. Star Wars fandoms, Star Trek fandoms, the Snyder Cut fandom, and yet we never hear about how much positivity happens because of these groups of people. The garbage websites that allow these articles to be posted on their platforms never stop, and they never will, unfortunately. They want to destroy anyone who stands in their way, anyone who doesn't agree with their opinions, and these writers can't accept the fact that people have opinions that are different than theirs. Now, I've definitely covered plenty of articles that crap on the Star Wars and Snyder Cut fandoms in the past, but we've got yet another one from the Hollywood Reporter that's even worse than a lot of the ones that I've covered, because this one goes on to defend people who work for Disney that have made very anti-white, anti-male tweets. They defend Brie Larson, who attacked Marvel fans, and they also defend giant companies like Disney. I mean, it's just a very, very terrible article. But before we get into it, if you like the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel to see my daily content that unfortunately YouTube seems to suppress a lot of. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted, and if you really like my content, consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month. I appreciate all of the support. So from Justice League to Star Wars, studios reckon with toxic fandoms. So when Zack Snyder's Justice League hit HBO Max on March 18th, it marked the culmination of a years-long effort by a devoted group of DC fans to allow the director to finish a film he left in 2017. Along the way, Snyder's fans raised $500,000 for suicide prevention in honor of the filmmaker's late daughter, Autumn. I'm glad that they at least put this in the article because this was super positive. I'm so glad to see that this happened, and I'm so happy to hear about it. I'm glad that they at least put something positive in this article of bullshit, because it goes on to say, despite the positives, a small but vocal segment of the fandom used social media to threaten and harass fellow fans, as well as Warner Media executives they perceived as standing in the way of the cut. Obviously, the cut didn't happen for years, so clearly executives were standing in the way. I'm definitely not saying that people should have threatened or harassed, Warner Media executives, fans, whoever, but still, it was the executives technically that stood in the way of it happening. But Warner Media Studio CEO Ann Sarnoff made waves on March 22nd when she condemned such behavior in an interview with Variety, saying, "I'm very disappointed in the fans that have chosen to go to that negative place with regard to DC, with regard to some of our executives." Those comments represented a break from the norm of studios publicly ignoring unsavory elements within fan bases, even as they seek to find new ways to monetize those audiences. In years past, Sony watched trolls attack its 2016 female-led Ghostbusters reboot. Marvel Studios saw Captain Marvel's Rotten Tomatoes score sandbagged, and Lucasfilm was silent as stars John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran endured racist abuse. Their major attack on fans is that fandoms are full of trolls and racists and toxicity, but the majority of this is just a tactic because anytime anyone criticizes them or people they're backing, they automatically say it's harassment and bullying because they don't want the criticism, so they try to make it seem like any criticism is total harassment, where that's just not true. We are free to criticize the things we don't like, and they don't want us to be able to do that. So first of all, they say Sony watched trolls attack its 2016 female-led Ghostbusters reboot, but if we go over to the Rotten Tomatoes page, it does have a 74% critic score, but a 49% audience score. There are reviews just from a day ago with a 2 out of 5 stars. It is so bad that I could not even finish it. No, it was horrible. It was trying too hard to be woke instead of feeding the original storyline fine. I can't wait to see the next release with the storyline tied in a lot better. People saying 5 years after the manufactured controversy died down, I finally bit the bullet and gave Ghostbusters 2016 a try, and it's genuinely terrible. There are people still leaving reviews for this movie who are saying it's terrible. Clearly, it's not just trolls that didn't like this movie. It says, but Hollywood majors are now learning that they can't always remain silent about what happens on social media. Disney's Lucasfilm has been at the forefront of this conversation. In January, cosplayer and host Christina Ariel faced racist attacks and threats after the studio named her host of the High Republic show, a bi-monthly show on StarWars.com and YouTube, giving an inside look at a galaxy far, far away. Ahead of the show's debut, previous tweets from Ariel denouncing systemic racism, essentially calling upon white people to own their role in it, were resurfaced. She received numerous threats via social media, and rather than remain silent, Lucasfilm swiftly backed Ariel, stating on Twitter January 22nd, "Our Star Wars community is one of hope and inclusivity. We support Christina Ariel," and clearly they don't support strong women, or else they wouldn't have fired Gina Carano. But all this article does is defend Brie Larson, who attacked Marvel fans that just wanted a good story. Defend Christina Ariel, who made pretty racist comments on social media about white people, and defend Disney, who shrunk John Boyega's character in the Force Awakens poster to please China. And there's definitely bad apples in the Justice League fandom or Star Wars fandoms, but that happens with every group of fans, no matter what franchise we're talking about, and they don't accept that fact. They just want to single out specific fandoms that maybe have a few bad apples in them, like every group of people. But it says, for Moya Bailey, a scholar who has studied harassment of black women online, Lucasfilm's statement felt noteworthy. A lot of people had been on their own, managing the backlash of long and deep-seated racist stereotypes alone, so having the entertainment industry understand that it makes a difference when they come forward and support you, it's a huge turning point. Now, I actually think that this is a pretty damn funny statement. The thing here is the reason why companies put out statements saying they condemn racism and violence are for people who will believe them, just like this person did. Do they really think that a company cares about racism and violence? Now, look at Disney, okay? If they did, they wouldn't have shrunk John Boyega's face in the Chinese poster for The Force Awakens. If they cared, they wouldn't be thanking Chinese organizations that are directly affiliated with the Muslim concentration camps that are there. These companies just want to make sure that they stay on your good side so they can keep making money off of you. It continues on to say, while so-called toxic fans take up an oversized place in the media's and public imaginations, Cinema Blend journalist Sean O'Connell suspects it's a relatively small group of people. O'Connell, who studies Snyder's fandoms closely, notes that Sarnoff's comments about toxic fandoms received little pushback from the community. Of course it received little pushback, because we agree that people shouldn't be toxic. People shouldn't be running around, attacking executives or actors or actresses. We don't support that, or at least a lot of us don't. So it says, instead, it was Sarnoff's comments about Snyder's Justice League universe not continuing on after the Snyder Cut that received the most disappointment. Of course, that is the key word, disappointment. People are disappointed that we're not seeing the continuation of the Snyderverse. We thought that the Justice League, the Snyder Cut, was good. We thought it was, worthy of another movie or two. And his original plan was to make it a trilogy, and we're not getting that trilogy. So of course we're going to be disappointed in this news. Journalists calling fandoms toxic is getting so old and worn out. How many garbage articles can you keep writing about this BS? It's disappointing to see that this happens so often. And these journalists think that it's okay to trash people just because they don't like them. It is so disappointing to see. And this article is just as bad as all of the others, and even worse because they defend people like Brie Larson and Christina Ariel and even Disney to a certain extent. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.